Hello. Yeah, developers love Docker. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I'm going to do a quick tutorial about Docker. Yeah, this is not a deep deep tutorial, something that covers a lot of things. It's just a way to introduce people who don't know Docker and don't know how to use Docker to that world. I think it is one of my favorite tools ever. So this is a short. I don't know if it will be short, but is a tutorial, an explanation to build something with Docker. So in this series of videos, I think that it will be a series, not just one long video. We will build something very easy. Just a database like MariaDB, MySQL, whatever you want actually, and a nice interface for that database. Okay, not a single API. We won't write a line of code in that tutorial. Okay, we will just compose things like using Legos. Okay, you have MariaDB, started. You have Addminer, which is, for those who don't know Addminer is just an interface to manage databases, something very easy. So you have MariaDB, you have Addminer, pam, you start bot and you have your little system. And I think it will be enough to introduce the most important concepts of Docker, the most important commands that you will use to do everything with Docker. Okay, so before starting with this little project, let's have some words about Docker, the Docker architecture. Okay, because it is important to understand what we are doing. Okay, it will not be an in-depth description, but let's just chat a bit about this. So starting from the right, we have this thing called registry. What is a registry? It's just a place in which you can find Docker images. By default, the registry that you use is the official one, is Docker Hub. Okay? On Docker Hub, you can find a lot of images, for example, MariaDB, and you can pull them. You can download those images. So after you download an image, you can run something starting from that image. That thing that you run is called container. You can see the containers as separated entities from other programs in your machine. Okay, they share the same hardware, but they are disconnected from each other. They are isolated. So we can say that Docker is an application level virtualization tool. Okay. So no virtual machine. Docker is not about virtual machines. Docker is about containers. So just to comment this image, on the right we have a bunch of images: Ubuntu, CentOS, Redis, and Jinx. And on this host, they have downloaded Ubuntu and Redis, and they have started 2 Ubuntu containers, this and this, and 2 Redis containers. Everything is disconnected from what we know. Okay? So that is all we need to know and to understand right now to start our little project. Okay? One other thing. Images. How are images done? Well, images are just made by a textual representation that describes how the image is composed. Okay? For example, we can just go here and we will land on the GitHub of MariaDB, and we will see that file called Docker file, yeah, which is, yes, just a textual representation of how this image is built. So, for example, they start from this version of Ubuntu, which, by the way, is another Docker image, and then they execute a bunch of commands that at the end create MariaDB. Perfect. So it is, we will not talk anymore about Dockerfile and other things. So we can, yeah, start with our little project. Yeah, are we happy? So very little recap. We want a database instance like MariaDB listening on the standard port 3306. Then we want to access our database with a nice web interface like Addminer, which is listening on 8080 port. Okay? Very simple. We will see two approaches to this problem. One which can be defined as incremental. So you have this problem, I want MariaDB, blah blah blah. Okay, what do? I do this. Okay, good boy. But then I have this other problem, so I need to do this other thing. So incremental approach. Then at the end, we will see, I don't know if in this video, we will see a prettier approach in which we start right from the beginning with a nice and compact self-describing setup. Okay? Yeah. So let's start with our database. So we can do docker pull MariaDB latest. We can just copy and paste what they say here. Generally, if there is no latest part here, that means that it is the latest generally. Okay, but by the way, you can review the tags that they offer and see what they have. Sometimes inside of the tag definition there are different architecture basing on the system on which you are, maybe a Raspberry Pi, things like that. You may want to know what they offer. So you can pull the image, or you can just do directly docker run MariaDB latest. It will download the image if you don't already have it locally. So I already know that this command will steal my my terminal. So I already put -d, that means detach. Okay, so it will run the container and put it, let's say, in background, but it is not a right term. It will not be executed inside of this terminal. So it will anyway fail this command. So do you see? I don't have MariaDB locally, so it starts downloading from Docker Hub. Those things here are called layers. Probably we will talk about layers in another video. So layers are just pieces of instructions or data to build out the container. So yeah, it has created this container. This last hash here is the ID of that container. If we do docker ps, why it is not running? I know why it is not running. Docker logs that id. Okay. Another command we have learned. We are so good. So docker logs. What does docker logs do? Reads the logs. So it failed because MariaDB to work needs at least one of these environment variables here. Okay. So how to set an environment variable with Docker? -e, name of the environment variable, like MariaDB root password. equals root. Okay, just a toy example. Let's also give a name to that container, so we don't need to refer to it with that ugly thing, but just put dash name db. Okay. Now Docker PS, look at that. So we have this container ID. The image is MariaDB. Created right now. This is the health of this container. This is the name. Okay. We will see the concept of ports soon. Now, if we do docker container ls, this is the same as doing docker ps. Okay. If we do -- all, we also see the failed one. Okay. Elastic Chom. How to pronounce it? I don't know. Help me. So yeah, this is exited. If I want, I can remove that container. Docker rm elastic this. Okay. I could also have done docker rm that thing here. Okay, now it will just say no such container. Nice. Now, what if we do docker logs db? Okay, it is ready for connections. Okay. If you do docker logs -f, you remain listening. You remain watching. Sorry, the logs as they come. So let's say if it works. Okay. So you know docker ps. It says that it's listening on the standard port 3306. So I could do something like netcat myself localhost on 3306. What does it mean empty? Let's put -v verbose output connection refused. Okay. What does it mean connection refused? But there is nothing listening on that port actually. Okay. Why is that? So give yourself a minute to answer. Remember that this is a container, so we are not really this port 3306 is inside of that MariaDB container. Okay, it is not a port that is open on our host machine. This is the demonstration of that. So we need actually a way to map that container port to a port on our host machine. Port forwarding, something like that. So to do that, let's just stop this container and create another one with another setting. Docker stop db. Another thing. What if I do docker rm db? I cannot do because it is running. So docker stop db and then docker rm db. Okay. So MariaDB, that is our command of before. So we need to do a port mapping. So it is very easy. -p 3306 of my machine should be mapped to the 3306 of the container. Very, very easy syntax. Remember, left host machine, right container. Now, docker ps, look at the difference here. Ports 3306 TCP. Look at that now. We have mapped on TCP every host to that. Well, this is the binding address. So it means accept connections that arrive on that port from any host and map them to that other port. Okay. So if I do netcat again, wow, I'm here. I'm in. Well, not really, but the connection is okay. Okay, you can see from it. But we cannot really do anything. Subscribe to prompt stuff, computer science stuff. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Okay, but we can actually use this utility here, MySQL. User is root, ask for a password, and the host is this. Yeah, I don't have this. Yeah, it is the same thing actually. Yeah, continue. This is a VM. I'm inside a VM that is with a clean environment, but I don't really have anything. So, yeah. Okay, we are inside of our database. Show databases. Okay, yeah. Create database, subscribe.
Okay, use subscribe, create table, channel, and yeah. Yeah, subscribe to bunch of stuff. How funny is that?
Okay, we have our database working. Okay, we can exit. I think it is quit. Yeah, quit. Bye. Perfect. We have our database running. We have seen that we can connect to the database after having used that -p syntax. And we have played a bit with the database. Now, let's move on the other part. So we want to add Addminer to that equation here. So it is the same thing. Docker pull, anzi, Docker run detach name Addminer port 8080 and do we need anything else? No. Yeah, we need Addminer, the name of the image. Okay. Obviously, you need to know what ports are exposed. Generally, you can find them in the documentation. Okay. For example, here you will see that they use the 3306 port. Okay. Okay, perfect. We have our image. Yes, we have our container running, Docker PS. We have MariaDB as before, and then we have also Addminer. Okay, so if we open a browser, localhost 8080, we see Addminer. Okay, now as server here, we can leave DB because little spoiler, the names that you define here can also be used as host names. Okay, so you can leave DB. It means that container here. And then our credential, the user was root and the password was root. Let's see what happens. Ha 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 ha. DB is not known. We cannot access it. Why? 1 minute to some seconds to try to answer this question. Why can't we access server? Well, the answer is that actually Addminer doesn't know anything about that hostname here, doesn't know anything about the database. Because remember, they are containers. They are isolated from each other. Unless in some way you link them together in some way, yes. One of these ways is to create a network. So another command that you discover now is docker network ls. So you can find all the networks that are automatically created by Docker. So you have the host network, which is equivalent to run a program on your machine without Docker, without anything. Okay, so you completely use the hosts network. With the bridged network, you are running on a separate network. It is not the host network, it is something else with known, well, there is no networking for that container that you assign known to. So what can we do? Docker network create, and let's call it mydb. Docker network ls mydb. By default, the driver is bridge. Perfect. Now we can say to Docker that we want our containers to be in that network. So there is very, very useful command, docker network attach, I don't remember, docker network help, let's see, connect, okay, docker network connect Maria, anzi, db, what is the syntax, is the network, so docker network command connect mydb db. Okay, we have said put db inside of this network, and then the same thing with Addminer. Okay, very, very easy. Now let's see what happens. Wow, we are inside. Incredible. Okay, so we have our table, subscribe to comp stuff. Yeah, you you see everything in Italian because okay. English. Okay, that's it. And yeah, another nice thing that we can do is to use docker inspect on db, for example, and pipe it to less because it will be a lot of output. Okay, so less just allows us to have this kind of output and read it like an editor. So here we can find a bunch of settings. With inspect we can inspect everything, every setting that is related to that container. Okay, so at the end we will see something like yeah, networks bridge, and we will see that inside of the bridged network, this is the address of the container. And inside of this other network, mydb, this is the address. Okay, IP address, this IP address, this. Perfect. So use docker inspect when you want to read about your containers. So actually you can specify networks also when you do docker run. You can put network and the name of the network, but you need to create it before it, otherwise it will not work. Okay, now let's talk about storage, bot files. So whenever you create a container, you are also creating a volume, an anonymous volume. If you do docker volume ls, you will see that there are a bunch of volumes, and they are linked to specific containers, and they hold container files. So when you remove containers, you are not also removing the volume. But Docker, let's see this thing, Docker rm help. If you pass -v to the rm option, you are also going to remove those anonymous volumes. And also, you are not really protecting the fact that you can accidentally remove the container, the volume, okay? So it is important to maintain, to link your data, to make your data persistent. There are two methods, two ways to do that. One is by using bind mounts that we will see right now, and one is with volumes. The difference is that bind mounts are folders in your file system that are related to another specific folder inside of the container. And volumes are pretty much almost the same thing, but they are completely managed by Docker. Okay, they are transparent to you. And yeah, we will see the difference right now. So now we have all those things working. So let's just remove MariaDB and create another container which is the same but saves files. Okay. So docker stop db and db. Let's create a new directory, mydb. Okay, cool. So now to specify mappings, in this case is a bind mount, let's just put -v and now specify the mapping. You must use absolute paths. So it will be home, user, yeah, I think mydb, and the folder to map is inside of the documentation. In this case, there is a pre-made example here, so you know that you need this folder here, var lib mysql. Okay, var lib mysql. So if I run this right now, I will lose everything. I will lose everything because I need to do one step before of doing that. I need to to copy the content of this folder here to this location. Otherwise, this container will start with this setting here and will discard everything that is here to put the content that there is here, which is nothing. Okay, so instead of doing that, and let's do another better thing also. Let's create a subfolder, make dir db data. Oh fuck, db data, something like that, and use this docker cp thing. So we are copying the content of var lib mysql in our location. So the syntax should be db and var lib mysql inside of db data. Yeah. No such container. What am I doing wrong? Docker cp help. Let's say container. So you have container, which is db. Ah, yeah, I don't have db running. I've stopped it. Obviously. Okay, let's start it again and we can see that everything should work as usual. Okay, we still have subscribe everything. So now it should work. Yeah, exactly. So lsdb data, we have MySQL. Yeah, I've done one thing wrong here. Yes, because I have copied in a bad way, because we should have MySQL, this content here, okay? But this is not really a problem. Just
A few moments later.
okay, yeah. I was just missing this dot here. Okay, without the dot, we were copying the directory itself inside of this path. With the dot, we are saying, hey, copy the files. Okay, right now, if we see what is inside of the big data, we will see that there is our database here. So if we do, yeah, that is our database. Now, if we do docker stop db and docker rm-v db to also remove volumes, and we start our container again by specifying that I want this data to be mapped to this other here. And actually we need to execute this from any folder. Yeah, it should work. So it should maintain our subscribe database. Yes, subscribe to computer science stuff. Perfect. Everything works. Okay, we are happy. Okay, now we will see the other approach that I was saying at the beginning, in which we don't incrementally add things to our environment, but we start right away with a specific setup that can be reproduced to any machine without problems. Okay, with one command you spin up those two services correctly configured. Okay, this approach is possible by Docker Compose, which is another utility. Docker Compose is something that you can install, and you can define your structure, your environment with text, with this language which is called YAML. Yep. So you define what are the services of your application, whatever it is, you give names to them, and you define the same thing that we have done in the command line. So you define the ports, which volumes to use, things like that. Let's start and see what we can do. Actually, there is one pre-made Docker Compose file that you can find in the MariaDB documentation. We will start from this. So let's copy it. So we can start from this folder. Docker compose dot YAML. Perfect. Let's use Beam Docker compose. So, okay, here we have our thing called DB, image MariaDB. Restart. This is the restart policy. You can find the documentation on Docker. Basically, you can select what to do when the container stops or when the system reboots, for example. You can define different policies. For example, let's not. For example, you can see unless stopped is another policy. Let's not think about this for this moment. So environment, my SQL root password, we have said root. And this was the only environment variable that we had. We also specified ports. Okay. parts. We have said 3306, 3306. That's perfect. And then that's all. Then we also have Addminer already done here with ports 8080, 8080. Okay, we could not specify ports here in the compose file for the DB for a simple reason. If you use a version 3 of Docker Compose, it will automatically create a network for you that contains these services here. So since they are in the same network already, you don't need to explicitly expose ports, to explicitly set mappings from the machine to the container. You don't really need that. So we can remove it unless you really want that behavior. So in that, with that setting, the only service that is exposed on our host machine is Addminer that we can reach on 8080. We cannot access the DB because it is not mapped. We can only use the DB via Addminer with this setting here. So let's first stop our services and delete them. Docker stop db and docker rm db docker Addminer. Okay, so once we have a Docker compose file, I was forgetting the data, guys. Docker compose, so db volumes, and you say you can write with compose you can specify relative paths too. So we have db data that is mapped to var lib mysql. Okay, we have this setting here. Okay, so once you have this Docker compose file, you can just do docker compose app-d, where -d is detach, and app means spin up this this infrastructure. And if your Docker compose file has another name, you just do f and say the name here. Okay, we will just spin up as you need to install it. Okay, this was a clean environment on this, almost clean, because I was using this machine for another thing and I was, so okay, you can see it right now, creating network mydb default with the default driver, which is, you can answer because you know it, and the services have this name, so the folder in which you are operating, then the name of the service, and a number for that service. So docker ps, right now you have this situation here. Okay, so let's go to our Addminer here, and voila, everything works, everything is here. Nice, really. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, Docker Compose is very, very, very useful, actually. It's beautiful. Only with a file. You can also avoid to put environment variables here. You can create, for example, a .env file in your folder and include in the Docker Compose with another option that I think it is env file, Docker Compose env file. Yeah, No, this is from the command line. I don't remember inside of compose. Yeah, I don't remember. File. Yeah, env file and the name of the files. You can have more than one, okay? So that's the end actually, because let me see. Yeah, the end was to get started with compose, and we have done it. It was very, very, very fast actually, and that's all. Yeah, bye, thank you. And yeah, if there is something to write in the comments, just leave a comment. Questions, whatever, insults if you want, whatever you want, I'm ready. Okay, bye.